Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago has a new government. This story takes the lead in our 925th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 21st August 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. It's official. Trinidad and Tobago has a new government, which reflects a mix of some incumbents and quite a few new faces. The Prime Minister and the new members of his cabinet all took their oaths of office on Wednesday at President's House. Anselm Gibbs of TV6 News reports.
I, Keith Christopher Rowley, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Prime Minister.
8 days after the general election, which his People's National Movement Party won, Dr. Rowley officially began his second term as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Rowley and his spanking new cabinet were sworn in Wednesday afternoon at President's House. That new cabinet is a mixture of familiar and new faces. Faris Al-Rawi is back as Attorney General, while Clarence Rambarat returns as Minister of Agriculture. Dr. Niang Gadsby-Delic takes up the job of Education Minister, while Franklin Can and Colm Imbert get to keep their old jobs. There's a new Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. He's Dr. Amory Brown. And Terence Dial Singh remains Health Minister. Penelope Beckles is the new Housing Minister, and Steve McClatchy is the new Labour Minister. Kazim Hussain is back as Minister of Local Government. Stuart Young keeps his National Security Minister job, while Camille Robinson-Regis is Minister of Planning and Development, and Alison West is the Minister of Public Administration and Digital Transformation. New kid on the block Marvin Gonzalez is Public Utilities Minister, and Donna Cox takes over Social Development and Family Services. Shamfa Kojo is Minister of Sport and Community Development. Randall Mitchell is Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts. Paula Gopiskun remains Trade Minister, and Rohan Sinadan keeps the Works and Transport portfolio. Fitzgerald Hines is now Minister of Youth Development and National Service. Now to the junior ministers. Avinash Singh is at the Agriculture Ministry. Lisa Morris-Julian joins the Education Ministry. Brian Manning is at the Finance Ministry. Adrian Leons is at the Housing Ministry. New face Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal will start work at the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. Ayana Webster Roy is back at the Office of the Prime Minister, and Simon Denobrica joins her there. Hassel Backus is Minister in the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation, and Foster Cummings is Minister in the Ministry of Works and Transport. And Selm Gibbs, TV6 News.
Meanwhile, Jewel Brown and Urvashi Tiwari Rupnarayan of TV6 News provide an overview of Wednesday's swearing-in events.
We did hear from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley that one of his new cabinet members, the new Foreign Affairs Minister, was absent as he's in quarantine and is expected to be out of quarantine by Sunday and hopefully, according to the Prime Minister, to take his oath of office on Monday. We did see, as Anselm had pointed out earlier, some familiar faces returning to the cabinet, among them Faris Al-Wari as Attorney General, and he did give the government's latest position on the issue of the wearing of face masks in public, as Trinidad and Tobago is now undergoing community spread with regard to COVID-19. My colleague Urvashi was inside of the briefing room at President's House, where members of the new cabinet, including Mr. Al-Wari, gave some remarks to the media after they took their oaths of office. Urvashi?
That's right, Jewel. So Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi here for his second time around. He did speak about a full legislative agenda, and I took some notes. He spoke about the evidence control bill. He spoke about cannabis legislation and, of course, campaign finance reform. But at the top of government's priority, he did say, was COVID-19 regulations as it relates to the wearing of masks and making it an arrestable offense. Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi said it's a bit impractical. Actually, he said it's extremely impractical, and he instead hinted towards making the wearing of masks or non-compliance with the wearing of masks, making it instead a ticketable offense. Now, Joel, we also got the opportunity to speak with Penelope Beckles, who is our new housing minister. And just very interestingly, she spoke about making housing more accessible to single mothers. And of course, speaking about houses, here we are in front of President's House. It's that blue limestone building with the Victorian-styled arches and, of course, the columns. It was inaugurated, Jewel, in 1876. It's just amazing being here to cover the ceremony today.
Well, Uvashi, in fact, Prime Minister Rowley did say in his first address after being sworn into office that he had taken note of the fact that the ceremony had taken place here. It was the first time in several years this had occurred. In fact, President Weeks did remind us that the last time there was a swearing in of a Prime Minister at President's House was in 2002. The last time they were swearing in of members of the Cabinet was in 2007.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
While the majority of cabinet ministers were sworn in, there was one minister who could not make the ceremony. Prime Minister Rowley explains why.
That is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, who is currently in quarantine and should be out by the end of the weekend. So, Excellency, with your permission, he should be sworn in sometime by Monday or thereafter. So Dr. Brown will join those of us who have already been sworn in.
Two women are now at the helm of the Education Ministry. Nan Gansby-Jolly, the newly minted minister, and Lisa Morris-Julian, minister in the Ministry of Education. The Prime Minister spoke of the significance of the appointments.
That I have put the nation's children in the hands of two mothers, and I trust that they could not be better placed. The two ministers in the Ministry of Education are responsible now not just only for their own family, but for the family of children of Trinidad and Tobago. As Prime Minister, the most significant assignment that I would expect to be carried out during this period of service of these two ministers is a radical reform of the country's curriculum from primary school and into secondary school.
Over now to Jamaica, where the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, declared that he has no regrets in calling a general election amid a spike in COVID-19 cases, as he said the institutions of democracy cannot be allowed to fail.
Jamaicans are to vote in a general election on the 3rd of September, 6 months before they are constitutionally due. The Constitution allows for a further 3-month extension beyond the set due date. But as the political temperature rose in the weeks leading up to the August 11th announcement, the country was starting to experience an uptick in its COVID-19 count. On June 1st, when Jamaica started opening up its borders, 588 cases were confirmed with 9 deaths. On August 11th, when the polls were announced, the new total was 883. The Ministry of Health reported 1,129 positive cases, with 734 recoveries and 14 deaths up to August 17th. Sections of Clarendon and St. Thomas are now under quarantine. Several members of the opposition People's National Party have criticized the Prime Minister for calling the election. But Mr. Holness has said he is confident that the election can be held safely, and he had no regrets calling it, adding, quote, "We are transitioning from the containment of the pandemic to learning to live with COVID. So you have to go on with your life."
The APNU-AFC coalition in Guyana submitted its list of candidates for the 12th Parliament, with a number of new faces appearing for both the PNC and AFC. Members of the smaller parties that comprise the coalition, however, have not been included on the list. The details in this HGP Nightly Report with Wendell Badri.
On Tuesday afternoon, the APNU AFC coalition, via a press release, submitted its list of persons who will serve as members of the 12th Parliament when it reconvenes. While the AFC has submitted its list of 9 members who will serve, the PNCR has submitted a list of 22 candidates. The APNU coalition comprised 5 parties, excluding the AFC. However, the 31 names submitted comprise members of the AFC and the PNCR only. Of the 9 persons appearing on the AFC's list, Sherrod Duncan and Jurita Fernandes will make their debut as parliamentarians, while fresh faces from the PNCR camp include Christopher Jones, Geeta Chandan Edmund, Nima Flu Bess, Tabitha Surabo Hali, Coretta MacDonald, Maureen Philadelphia, Natasha Singh Lewis, Amanza Walton Desir, Ronald Cox, Roysdale Ford, Vincent Henry, Sherwin Holder, Dineshwar Jai Prasad, Vince Roy Jordan, Ganesh Mahipal, and Richard Sinclair. Coalition members who will be returning to Parliament include Cathy Hughes, David Patterson, Raphael Trotman, Dr. Karen Cummings, Jermaine Figuera, as well as Joseph Harmon, among others. The party in its statement iterated that the PNCR has taken a bold step forward. The composition of the list of candidates extracted to be representatives in the next Parliament is the face of the future and will empower a new generation of leaders. Leader of the PNCR, Brigadier David Granger, has iterated on numerous occasions that young people must be prepared to take up the mantle of leadership. Speaking to Nightly News on the selection of members to represent the party and their constituents in the National Assembly, Chairperson of the PNCR, Valda Lawrence, said they have been carefully selected and possess the required skills and skill sets to help them along their journey.
I believe that the persons who have been chosen have been there before, and those who have the opportunity to have been carefully.
When questioned about the reason behind the omission of persons, including herself, the leader of the party, the former Attorney General, and among others, the chairperson responded.
There is no why, because there is no guarantee of anyone going anywhere or taking up any position. There is no guarantee, and we run on our party's plate.
The party ended its statement by iterating its commitment to working with other parties, trade unions, private sector, and civil society groups to realize the common quest to make Guyana one nation. Our party is continually renewing itself to give voice to people from every part of this country and every part of our great diaspora, ensuring the good life for Guyanese. Wendell Badri for HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.